Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about a potential earthquake in the world of AI. Seriously, it's a disruption that could reshape the entire industry by 2026. And it all comes from challenging one simple idea, that bigger is always better.
So let's just dive right in, because this question, it's everything. A new challenger, a company from China called DeepSeek, is betting its entire future on this exact idea. And they're not just whispering it. They're aiming to take on the biggest names in the game.
Okay, so to really get how big of a deal this is, you first have to understand the world as it is right now. Think of the AI kingdom. It's ruled by just a handful of very powerful, very well-funded titans.
Yeah, we're talking about the Goliaths of the industry. You know the names: OpenAI, Anthropic. Their whole strategy is built on one thing: creating these enormous, incredibly powerful models. But here's the catch. They're kept behind closed doors. They're closed source, and you have to pay to access them. They set the standard, and that standard is expensive.
And this right here, this just lays it all out. It's a fundamental clash of strategies. You've got the US incumbents on one side, closed, paid, running on the absolute latest, greatest, most expensive hardware. And then you have DeepSeek coming in with a totally different playbook. They're planning to release their model as open-weight, which is basically free for developers. And, get this, they're designing it to run on older, more accessible chips. It's a complete flip of the script.
So, let's get into the specifics of this plan. How exactly does DeepSeek think they can challenge that established, high-cost way of doing things?
Well, their strategy is incredibly smart because it's so focused. This isn't just about building a good model. Point one, they are laser-focused on being the best at one super high-value task: software engineering. Point two, they want to prove once and for all that you don't need the world's most expensive chips to get top-tier AI performance. Three, by making it free, they're hoping to become the go-to tool for every developer out there. And you know, there's a fourth piece here that's just as important. This is a geopolitical statement. It's about demonstrating China's AI power, even with US trade restrictions in place.
So you might be asking, how in the world can they possibly pull this off? Well, the answer is in the tech. This is their slingshot. This is what allows this new David to take on the industry Goliaths. And it all comes down to one word: efficiency. Radical efficiency. So the first piece of their secret sauce is this really clever architecture called Mixture of Experts, or MOE. You know, think of a traditional AI model as the single giant brain. To answer any question, even a simple one, the whole thing has to power up. MOE is totally different. It's more like having a team of specialized experts. When a question comes in, you only wake up the specific experts you need for that job. It's all about working smarter, not harder.
So the process itself is simple, but the impact on cost is revolutionary. A query comes in, the system figures out which experts it needs, and activates just those few. An answer gets generated, and the rest of the model? It just stays idle, saving a massive amount of energy and compute power with every single use.
Now, the second piece of the puzzle is their unique memory system, which they call engram architecture. This is absolutely crucial for their goal of crushing it at coding tasks. It smartly separates the model's memory. It puts static knowledge, like the basic rules of a programming language, in one place, and the dynamic reasoning, like figuring out a tricky bug in your code, in another. And what this does is let it analyze enormous code bases. We're talking over 1 million lines of code without the slowdowns that just cripple other models.
And when you put these two technologies together, well, the result is what you see right here. The difference in the cost to run a single query is just staggering. It's a massive reduction in operational expense, and that is what makes their free business model even possible.
Which brings us to it, the multi-billion-dollar question that has the entire tech industry on the edge of its seat. If DeepSeek can actually deliver a free model that performs just as well as, or maybe even better than, the expensive paid models from the big guys, what happens next?
Because this sets the stage for a really dramatic showdown, and it's all expected to kick off in early 2026. So let's look at the timeline for how this whole race could unfold.
So the really crucial thing to get here is that this isn't just about a single launch day. We're actually in the hype phase right now. With technical papers leaking out, the actual launch is predicted for the middle of February 2026. But the real test, the moment of truth, comes right after that, when independent labs get their hands on it and benchmark it against GPT-4. Those results will determine everything. And look, If those benchmarks confirm what DeepSeek is claiming, it could set off this incredible chain reaction. First, boom, the technical breakthrough is validated. That could immediately trigger a price war, forcing OpenAI and others to slash their prices. That, in turn, could create some serious stock market volatility as investors start to question this whole spend more to win more story in AI. And finally, that leads to global adoption, right? Startups, developing nations, anyone who has priced out before suddenly has access to this incredibly powerful free tool.
Okay, so let's bring this down from that 30,000-foot view of market chaos. Let's talk about what this global ripple effect could actually mean for you, for developers, for businesses, for investors. The impact could be huge, and it looks different for everyone. For you developers out there, imagine running a GPT-4 level coding assistant on your own machine for free, keeping all your code completely private. For businesses, the cost of building AI-powered tools could just plummet. And for investors, it signals some turbulence ahead. Maybe a big shift in focus away from the companies making the hardware towards the companies that can best integrate the software.
But of course, this whole disruption, it's not a done deal. There are some major hurdles. DeepSeek is going to face huge trust issues in the West around data privacy. And, hey, while it's more efficient, running it locally is still going to require a pretty beefy, expensive GPU. Then there are the business questions. How long can you sustain giving away such a powerful tool for free? And finally, its built-in censorship on politically sensitive topics is definitely going to be a deal-breaker for some.
At the end of the day, DeepSeek's challenge forces all of us to ask a really fundamental question about where this is all going. Does the future of AI belong to whoever has the deepest pockets and the biggest supercomputer? Or is the next era going to be defined not by brute force, but by elegant efficiency? Well, 2026 might just give us the answer.